Will the Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs please come to order? I'd like to welcome committee members Cordero, Kia'aina, Okimoto, Say, Tulba, Waters, and Wire, and committee member Tupola is participating remotely by video conference. Do we have her on video? Okay, when she comes in, we'll have her announce if she has anyone with her at her location. Before we start our meeting, I have some procedural announcements to make. Pursuant to section 92-3.7 about your revised statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda when the item is taken up in the following order. First, in-person testimony in the council chamber, and then remote testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. For remote testifiers, when your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I'll identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Some friendly reminders and tips: please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. All registered testifiers will be called upon first. Then I'll give persons who have not registered an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. Please utilize the raised hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. HRS section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, if any objections are noted, I'll call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside of the council chamber, in accordance with HRS section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described in the posted agenda. And as a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to welcome Councilmember Tupola, who's participating remotely by video conference. Councilmember Tupola, in accordance with HRS section 92-3.7, please identify each person who's with you at your location.
Aloha, Chair Dos Santos Tam. I'm here alone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's dive into our agenda. First up, we have Resolution 23-126, which accepts a gift to the city from the Honolulu Festival Foundation valued at $3,500 for the Deputy Managing Director to attend a cultural exchange trip to Japan from July 31st to August 5th of 2023. We first have Krishna Jairam, the Deputy Managing Director, if you'd like to make any remarks, if you'd like.
Good afternoon, Chair Dos Santos Tam and council members. I'm here to answer any questions. This is what I understand to be what used to be a yearly trip that the Festival Foundation used to have, and now they're restarting it. I'll be going on behalf of the mayor. It is a cultural exchange, but really also to discuss having our friends and family from Japan come back to Oahu as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the Deputy Managing Director? If not, we will proceed to in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the council chamber who'd like to testify? Seeing none, we'll move on to remote testifiers. I note we have Angela Melody Young, who's registered from CARES.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee. Angela Melody Young testifying in strong support. So from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, they say to create stable economic relations on the basis of mutual trust is important for both countries to learn through a constant dialogue what are the common interests of both countries and to take the attitude of speaking frankly and directly to each other and of making concessions where they should be made. In the economic field, the big trade imbalance between Japan and the United States has been rapidly improving since the turn of 1973, with 1972 as a peak. So in July 2023, DBED, in partnership with the Japan American Society of Hawaii, is convening the first ever Hawaii and Japan Sister State and Sister City Summit at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. And Hawaii and Japan have a long narrative of cultural, social, and economic and historical ties. And I think the experience will be very strengthening in the diplomatic relationships of Japan and Honolulu. So we're in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? I appreciate that she mentioned
to the same trip?
Councilmember, good question, and I do not know the answer, but I'll find out and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. We did have a few gifts and relating to travel, and I know that this is not related to training in any way, shape, or form, but the questions that I had to the administration and also to our city auditor relating to travel and gifts is what will we see, I don't want to say in return as a report, but like in return as to the fruits of those discussions that occur.
So thank you for that question. I have asked the foundation for a list of all of the counterpart officials that we will be meeting and who will be having discussions with. So I'm happy to provide a report back to the City Council on who I was able to speak to, what we discussed, because the goal here is, as I mentioned, is the cultural exchange part, but really to get our friends and family back from Japan visiting Oahu again. So that'll be the main thrust of my going there.
Okay, and maybe I'm dense, but is that an issue, them not coming here? Is that a weird thing to ask?
Not at all. So I think that the incoming tourism numbers are not as robust as they used to be. And so we do want to see that get to a healthy level, not too much, of course, but we do want to see that those numbers increase. And that's part of these relationships, that's part of these trips.
Okay, thank you. And in discussions with certain places that are valuable to the city and county of Honolulu, I know that destination management has been a topic of concern and prioritization, both at the state and at the city level. Do you have, and you don't have to like report it back to us, but do you have any thoughts of what your points will be when we do bring people back here?
Absolutely. So thank you for raising destination management. One of the discussion points that we've been having with, because we do meet occasionally with the Japanese airlines and the Japanese travel companies, is really that when we do have our guests from Japan come back, that it be a richer, more meaningful experience when they come here, that it not just be hordes of people coming and just running all over the place, that we really want them to come back. And to be honest and to be fair, the Japanese guests have always been relatively respectful and understanding of the importance of the culture of our home. And so that would be the focus of the discussion as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Managing Director, and thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Deputy Managing Director. I was just curious, given that conversation, do you have any knowledge of, I guess, the spending trends of visitors from Japan compared to visitors from either the continent or other places, or just curious?
So I don't have up-to-date numbers, but historically their per visitor spend in just pure dollars was higher than our mainland guests. And then they do form a disproportionately large number of our tourism as compared to our neighbor islands. And they have not come back in the same manner. And so the last I read, which is just what I read in the newspaper, is that we're expecting a gradual increase in those numbers from Japan. The dollar is much stronger right now, so that plays into it as well. So there's a variety of factors that affect this issue.
Okay, appreciate that. Mahalo.
Of course.
Okay, members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Members, we're back in discussion. Any further discussion on this matter? Okay, seeing none, the chair recommends a resolution 23-126 be reported out for adoption. Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, resolution 23-120 provides for the acquisition of easements for public use for the rehabilitation of Numana Road Bridge over Kalihi Stream, bridge number 129, located at Lailai, Kalihi Valley, Honolulu, Oahu, Hawaii, and determining and declaring the necessity of the acquisition by eminent domain. We have Aaron Sakamoto, Chief of Land Survey and Acquisition from DDC here.
Aloha, Chair Dos Santos Tam and council members. I'm Aaron Sakamoto. I'm with the Department of Design and Construction. We've submitted a draft resolution for your consideration and adoption for the acquisition of a bridge maintenance easement for the Numana Road Bridge Rehabilitation Project. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay. Members, any questions? Yeah. Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Can you explain a little bit about the easement? Is the easement already granted? And is this something that is continuation, or is this an easement that needs to be acquired for a particular reason?
Well, there is an existing bridge maintenance easement. This is an expansion of the bridge maintenance easement. Previous to this resolution, in 2021, there was a separate resolution, let's see, resolution number 21-114 that was adopted on October 12, 2021. It included parcel 4A. The description that was included in parcel 4A at that time, there was a clerical error. So our title abstractors recognized the error, and so we've come back solely for parcel 4A to address this title issue that in the description.
Okay, thank you. And the clerical error, was that like realized just recently, or after we granted that last easement?
Yes, it was just recently discovered, yes.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good to catch that then.
Yes, it was good that our abstractors recognized it.
Oh, and was that through surveying, or like what practice did we get to catch that?
Is in reviewing all of the documents prior to the filing for the condemnation for the eminent domain suit, and our title abstractors recognized it at that time. The original resolution in 2021 included only one transfer of certificate of title, a TCT, when in actuality there should be four separate transfer certificates of title, TCTs.
Okay, understood. And just in the future, I mean, how often do we catch these type of errors, and how do we mitigate them in the future?
Yeah, this is the first time that I've been aware of any type of error in this type.
Okay.
So we've discussed it, and within our division to make sure that we're diligent in how we check each other's work, because it actually does pass through different branches, and it was just the circumstances is just something that just fell through the cracks, and so we're all aware of it now within our division, so we'll strive to prevent it from happening in the future. We're all aware now, so definitely, like I said, this is the only time that I'm aware of it happening.
Understood, and thank you. Thank you for that clarification and explanation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? I do have a question. I wanted to ask the funding for the road or the bridge rehabilitation project. How is that funded? Is there federal funding involved?
No, this is actually, the easement is actually a nominal easement. So there's actually no compensation for it. So there's no federal funds that I'm aware of that would be affected by it.
But the rehabilitation of the bridge itself, that'll be done later on?
Oh, the project itself? Oh, I'm not sure what the funding source for the actual project itself, but for the land acquisition, yeah, it's a nominal consideration for the easement.
Okay. All right, at this time, why don't we call for testimony on this matter? Is there anyone in person that would like to testify? Clerks, is there anyone registered?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone else in the chamber who'd like to testify on this? Then is there anyone standing by remotely who'd like to testify on this?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, that being the case, members, is there any further discussion on this resolution? Okay. Seeing none, the chair recommends that resolution 23-120 be reported out to be laid over and published, and thereafter adopted at a subsequent council meeting. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Members will move on to agenda item number 3, which is Resolution 23-136, which urges the Neighborhood Board Commission Office and the Department of Information Technology to provide an update on the status of the Neighborhood Board election procedures. I see we have Stephen Courtney and Lloyd Yonanaka here. Please press the right side button.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Before we even get into any questions, maybe I can bring you up to speed on where we are today in terms of this, what happened and what is going to happen going forward. We knew we had a problem because we had some calls that people couldn't vote, and it was specific to the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board 1, Subdistrict 11. What we did is we worked with DIT, they identified the problem, they corrected the problem, and after that correction, everyone could vote. However, there was a number of people who did not vote earlier and did not try to re-vote. So what we decided was that we should go back and re-vote the entire district, Subdistrict 11. So that is our process now. In fact, the passcodes and PIN numbers are going out today. So we will re-vote Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Subdistrict 1. At that, I just want everyone to understand, we did have another issue in another race, and that was Waikiki. And there was one race there that people did not or could not vote. And the reason was, originally it was a contested race, but somebody dropped out, and they dropped out after the passcodes were mailed out. So at that point, it was uncontested, so there was no reason for anyone to vote. We did have some people call, and we had to explain that it doesn't matter, that person who's in there will get elected. Right now, we expect voting will run for Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board Subdistrict 11 until July 7th. And while our inauguration ceremonies are on July 1st, and that person won't be decided until the 7th, I can tell you that that person will not miss a meeting because the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board meets at the end of the month. So that whoever gets elected now will be able to attend the Hawaii Kai meeting. With that said, I can take any questions, and maybe Stephen can join me.
Okay, members, any questions? By the way, Lloyd, we all know you, but if you could state your name for the record.
Oh, Lloyd Yonenaka.
Thank you. Any questions for the Executive Secretary? Chair Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your explanation. That's super helpful. And in fact, I introduced this resolution to address that exact problem. It's the Portlock area of Hawaii Kai, and the vote count was very, very low compared to what it normally is. So I appreciate you taking steps to mitigate that problem. However, based on your explanation that there was a glitch in the computer program, and perhaps this is better for DIT to answer the question, but how do we know that this didn't happen in any other district? As we go forward, we want to make sure that our election process is sound, fair, and equitable to all the candidates, because now, what if a different candidate wins from the one currently seated? What happens there? The person who proposed or purportedly had won, what if they lose? They get kicked out of that seat? And it's super awkward.
Thank you for the question. Yes, it is a little awkward, but I have spoken to both candidates, and they believe the best thing to do is a revote. There's no issue with that. And I think it says a lot about both candidates that they just want it to be fair. They want it to be open, and a revote is the best way to let everyone have a chance to vote. And then from there, we'll determine a winner. But I also want to thank you for bringing up the subject about if it happened anywhere else. And the data is actually on our website. So if you want to traverse our website, you can see the voting results. And what is interesting, but the best way to look at it is this. The system records every time a person logs in and puts in their passcode. And then it says if they voted. If they didn't vote, then it says no. And then the person may come back later on and enter the passcode and try to vote again. The issue is that in Hawaii Kai, we had several people with 5, 6, 7, 8 attempts and no vote. But if you look at everybody else in the races, there are times when somebody did log in but did not vote. There are also many times when they logged in again and then voted. And as you can imagine, if you're on a computer in your house voting and you're trying to log in and you're putting your code in, and then before you start voting, your son or your daughter has an issue, well, you have to get away from your computer. So there are a lot of times people get distracted. But if you look at all of the data and it's all there, it's there almost no opportunity where they have this huge amount of attempts and no vote. Everything else is one attempt, vote, one attempt, vote. There are, however, a number of people that tried to vote and had the incorrect password or passcode or PIN. So there was some error in that area in terms of the voter itself not entering the right information. But as far as attempts to vote, the only multiple attempts really shows up in the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board 11 district.
Thank you so much. I know that there has been talk at the legislature about transitioning even in-person voting to voting online to help boost voter turnout. But this is a good exercise for us at the neighborhood board level to try to work out the kinks in the event that something like that were to happen. So thank you very much. That explanation is very helpful. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Director, for being here and all the work that you're doing. I was curious, do you know how many neighborhood boards had tie races? Because I think Kahalu'u did, Kolaloa had a sub-district maybe.
There were three races that were tied.
Okay. Okay. Could you walk us through just the process for that? Because I know folks had questions and we talked about it a little bit before, but how does that work?
In the neighborhood plan, which is the document we work off of, when there is a tie in a race, all it basically says is that the tie will be broken by lot. And what that means is that you draw straws, you draw numbers out of a hat, whatever you want, but it's a chance. So unfortunately, there is no long entailed process on a tie. Literally, I pulled names out of a hat. And we had a number of people there observing, but that is the way a tie break happens.
Okay. Do you know how that compares to other election processes when there's ties? Maybe not. I see you shaking your head.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Truly. And it's a lot of this is because the neighborhood board system is really unique. When we look across the country to find something similar, it's really hard. You can't find it.
Okay. Appreciate that. And then in terms of the neighborhood plan, in terms of amending that, that would be a multi-step process, correct?
Yeah, the neighborhood plan, which is what we would really like to get to in terms of reviewing it and amending it if we feel it needs amending, is a fairly long process that calls for at least 2 public hearings and in different parts of the island. It will probably take several months to get through that process.
Okay. Appreciate that information. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. My question for Mr. Yonenaka, relating to, because I have seen through the social media, NCO social media, that voters did opt in to call or vote in person. Do you know if those who opted in to vote in person or call in their votes did so because of the system issues?
For that race, we had 3 people request paper ballots. Mm-hmm. So what we are going to do in this time around is that we will make sure we will have a presence in Hawaii Kai, and it's going to be at the district park right next to the elementary school right off the highway. I can't remember the name, but we will have a presence there. So if someone from Hawaii Kai, from that area, cannot vote or doesn't have access to a computer, We will make sure they know we will be in that area. They can come down to the park and they can vote.
And for the 3 instances of people, and I'm not just speaking about Hawaii Kai, but about the people who opted in for paper ballots, are you taking that data to be like, okay, this is an area where we would need to be present in so that paper ballots would be available, or like, I guess, in person or person to person voting would be available?
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going to happen, is that we know the sub-district is actually the Portlock area. So we will be in that area at the beginning of the street that accesses Portlock. And we will have a presence there. We'll make sure everybody knows. In fact, in all likelihood, we will try and reach out to the people with the 3 paper ballots and say, we will be here on these days. Please come by and vote.
Okay, so I know we're talking about Hawaii Kai, but I noticed on the social media that there are other people, like couples that opted in to vote at the office.
Yes.
Those probably weren't from Hawaii Kai though, yeah? I'm talking about
No.
data from like other communities that opted to come in or call in.
Yeah, I don't know if we have that data, because when they come in, they use a computer to vote.
Right.
So they just get pushed with everybody else's vote. You know?
Okay.
But we had maybe a half a dozen to a dozen people stop by.
Okay, it would just be kind of cool. I mean, like, I to just know like what area they would have been coming from, to be like, hey, we had a higher amount of participants that did come in or request such a way to vote, another option to vote, and so this is where we would end up, like, possibly having a in-person voting accessibility site.
Yeah, and just as on top of that, what is interesting is that over a period of time, the number of paper ballots has been less and less. I think the previous election we had 500 or 600. This year we had 260.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's interesting that the tech side is expanding.
That's true. A lot of people are able to.
Yeah, they're very savvy. The neighborhood board people are very savvy.
Yeah. Okay, so going to the part of where you see multiple attempts, like you see one person logged in but never vote, and then another person logged in second time. I know you didn't have many of those instances, but the second logins and then voting, do you see that immediately, or do you see it after the whole voting period's over?
Both. If you look at the data, it tells you the time they logged in.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's 1 minute later, 2 minutes later, and it's on and on. And then there are times it's 2 or 3 days later.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's varied.
Okay. Well, then I won't ask my next questions. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? I have a question for the Executive Secretary, actually. So, this resolution calls for the NCO and DIT to submit a written report within 30 days of the election regarding any irregularities, et cetera. Would your office and the Neighborhood Commission be open to amending the neighborhood plan to create some kind of reporting requirement after every election to the council? I feel like that might be a good, transparent step.
I think so. I think, I looked at that part of the resolution and I thought that's not a bad idea, because we can take that and put it on our website, and that'll give a pretty good synopsis of how the election went. But no, I think it's a great idea. And, even if the commission doesn't take it up, we will do it.
Okay. And then I want to ask about the role of the election monitoring officer. Who was this person, and what role did that person play in all of this?
Yeah, the person is actually not related to my office or the neighborhood boards. They don't sit on a board. And what is interesting is that it's possible at some time in the past, the election monitor had a lot to do, a lot to observe, because they would look at the ballots as they move from one place to another and how the counting is done. In this particular case, once the paper ballots were done, there's not a lot to observe because everything else is electronic. And I don't know how else you would observe someone pressing a button and says, okay, total. So their role has been diminished over time, but they still play an important role when it comes to the paper ballots. They observe the opening of the can, making sure the number on the can is right, and then the process of counting and stacking and putting the ballots into the counter. So it's a physical thing as opposed to a technical thing.
All right, members, any other questions for the Executive Secretary? If not, thank you, and we'll call up the Deputy Director of DIT. If you could introduce yourself and any remarks you'd like to make about this resolution.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Courtney, Deputy Director for the Department of Information Technology. I did bring along 2 other members of my team, just in case there are questions in regards to the glitch, let's say. But in any case, I do have Division Chief Andy Yip and another manager, branch manager, Christy Cam as well. Her team is the one that actually developed the application.
Members, any questions for DIT? Okay, seeing none, thank you for being here. Members, actually, why don't we proceed to testimony? Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers who have registered or are in the chambers?
Chair, there are none.
And clerks, do we have any registered remote testifiers or anyone standing by remotely to testify? Oh, I see one. All right, we'll proceed with Angela Melody Young from Kapalama Neighborhood Security Watch.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee. Angela Melody Young testifying. I wish to comment. So neighborhood board elections, their cycle starts every year in July, and the neighborhood elections and other procedures should be a lot more transparent. There should be more scrutiny, not only for the elections, but also for the monthly meetings. There's only a moderator to facilitate if the rules are being applied accurately. Instead, there should be a moderator to facilitate the fostering of a cooperative and collaborative meeting, because oftentimes people attack each other, and that atmosphere is not what I'd call a neighborhood meeting. So NCO and OIP, the Office of Information Practices and Neighborhood Commission offices should get together to review Robert's Rules, the Sunshine Law, and the Neighborhood Plan. Because they each manage different things. So the Sunshine Law provides general information about such things such as the PIG, permitted interaction groups. Robert Rules applies to parliamentary procedure, and the neighborhood plan are about I think the officers. And so if there could be more scrutiny provided, not just only for the elections, but also for the monthly meetings, I think that'd be good. Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone else standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to discussion. Members, any discussion on this resolution? Thank you, Chair Waters, for introducing it. I think it's been a good discussion, very timely.
Thank you. I appreciate you having a hearing on this. Also, I'm open to a friendly amendment, as you mentioned in your questioning of the Executive Secretary. I think that's a good idea, just to do an annual report. And if they want to put it on their website, that's even better.
So I think we can work with your office to send them a letter or something to that effect. Okay. Members, any other discussion here?
Chair, briefly.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Waters, for bringing this up. And we very rarely get to discuss the neighborhood board. And I just wanted to make one quick comment for Director Yonenaka. Thank you for the work you've done. There were handfuls of neighborhood board members in almost all of my neighborhood boards that resigned this year. Some of them have been there for 10 to 15 years. And similar to what Angela brought up in her comments, one of the comments that was brought to my attention was just the need for more training. And I know that you extensively do that. And I know today's discussion is about DIT and the voting process, but many of them are seeking more training as neighborhood board members, not just for Robert's Rules, but also to train board members on what specific topics are within city purview so that they can stay within the legal limits of what they can discuss and actually effectuate change or even advise us on. So just wanted to make mention of that. I am very grateful for the opportunity that community members get to serve on the neighborhood board, and especially for this process. Although it seems very small, like voting, it is important. It's a way for them to voice their concerns. So thank you for anything you can do in that area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, members, any further discussion? If not, the chair recommends a resolution 23-136 be reported out for adoption. Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, members, the next set of items are posted on the agenda and have been referred to executive session. The first is a resolution to request additional funds for contract number SC-COR 22-00097 to continue the services of Farm Benedict Sugihara, a limited liability law partnership, LLP, as special counsel to represent defendants City and County of Honolulu and Susan Ballard in a legal action entitled Deborah Lynn Thomas, individually and in her capacity as personal representative of the estate of Kyle Thomas versus City and County of Honolulu et al., civil number CV2I00087, JAO, KJM, U.S. District Court. Is there any in-person testimony on this item?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone remotely standing by or who's registered waiting to testify on this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. There being none, the next item is the request for authorization to settle claim made by Kelly Ann Y. Pu'ohau against the City and County of Honolulu. Is there any person who'd like to testify here in the chambers?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone registered remotely or standing by remotely waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
All right, next item, item 6, is a resolution to retain the legal services of Lynn E. Panagakos, attorney at law, as special counsel to represent defendant Donna Yuklan Leong in a matter entitled United States v. Donna Yuklan Leong et al., criminal number CR 21-00142 LEK, U.S. District Court. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Clerks, do we have any registered or standing by remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Item number 7 is a request for authorization to settle a case against the City and County of Honolulu entitled Michael Santucci versus City and County of Honolulu et al., civil number 22-00142, DKW, KJM, U.S. District Court. Will now, is there anyone standing by to testify here in person?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone registered or standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. And then the final item on the agenda here is item number 8, a request for authorization to settle a claim made by the Friends of Hanauma Bay against the City and County of Honolulu. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers, either registered or standing by?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Members, are there any objections to convening into executive session? Seeing no objections, the committee now convenes into a closed meeting pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-4 and 92-5A4 to consult in a closed meeting with its attorneys on the questions and issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and/or liabilities of the city, the council, its committees on the items listed on the agenda for executive session. The following persons will be participating in executive session: all council members, Corporation Counsel Dwayne W.H. Pang, Kaliko Warrington, Robert Cohn, Paul Aoki, Kimi Andrews, and Kara Rotsi, and Seichi Liu, Office of Council Services staff. Members, for the purposes of social distancing requirements, will remain seated in the council chamber for executive session. Any non-executive session staff must vacate the council chamber, and the video recording and audio broadcast of the meeting shall cease until we reconvene from executive session. I'll now call a recess. The Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs is reconvened. Pursuant to Section 92-4 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the committee has consulted with its attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and or liabilities of the city, the council, and its committees on the items listed on the agenda for executive session. I'll now be making recommendations on the items listed on the agenda as follows. This will be one long motion pertaining to all 5 matters. The chair recommends that the resolution to request additional funds for contract number SCCOR 22000097 to continue the services of Farm Benedict Sugihara Limited Liability Law Partnership LLP as special counsel to represent defendants City and County of Honolulu and Susan Ballard in a legal action entitled Deborah Lynn Thomas individually and in her capacity as personal representative of the estate of Kyle Thomas, First City and County of Honolulu et al., civil number CV2I-00087, JAO, KJM, U.S. District Court, be approved. The chair further recommends that the request for authorization to settle a claim made by Kelly Ann Y. Pu'ohau against the City and County of Honolulu be approved. The chair further recommends that the resolution to retain the legal services of Lynn E. Panagakos, attorney at law, as special counsel to represent defendant Donna Yuklan Leong in a matter entitled United States v. Donna Yuklan Leong et al., criminal number CR21-00124-142, LEK, U.S. District Court, be approved. The chair further recommends that the request for authorization to settle a case against the City and County of Honolulu entitled Michael Santucci v. City and County of Honolulu et al., civil number 22-00142, DKW, KJM, U.S. District Court, be approved. And the chair finally recommends that the request for authorization to settle a claim made by the Friends of Hanauma Bay against the City and County of Honolulu be approved. Members, is there any discussion on this long 5-item recommendation? Are there any objections or reservations with regard to this recommendation? Okay, hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, everyone. This concludes the Executive Matters and Legal Affairs agenda. We will take a short break. We'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 3:10 for the Transportation Committee. Thank you. Do we need a motion to adjourn? No need. Motion to adjourn? No need, okay. We do. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Councilmember Kimoto.
Second.
And
motion.
Motion and second from Chair. Oh,
so moved.
Vice Chair or Floor Leader Cordero. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Okay. So 3:10. Thanks.